All right. Again, welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here for our Time to Tell the Truth series. Many of you remember back in the day, telling my age for real, right? Back in the day, there used to be a show called To Tell the Truth. And that's what we want. That's all we want. That's all we ask for. It's just give me the truth and then let me decide what I'm going to do. Let me make my own decisions about my life, about my health, and everything else once I know the full truth about everything. So as we get through this, let me tell you who I am. My name is Dr. Rosalind Shaw Belt. Everybody calls me Dr. Roz, and I am the CEO of Dream to Life Productions and Ministry. I'm a wife, a musician. I've done a number of things that you see listed here, but today my role is as a certified wellness coach. I do have two doctorates, one's in theology and divinity. So I'm not a medical doctor, but I do have a certificate of completion with certified economopreneur and lifestyle consultant. I've got some other certifications as well as lifestyle coaching and also as a certified wellness coach. Today is part two. Last week, we started about hidden dangers of everyday products. And today we're going to tackle part two of that because we just can't get through all these products, man. There's so much stuff going on in our lives, hidden materials, hidden chemicals, hidden toxins that we don't know about. And I'm really not trying to disrupt your whole household, but at the same time, yeah, I guess I am trying to disrupt all of our households so that we are aware. See, that's the thing. We're destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And if we're not aware of something, we can't make the necessary changes because there's always a positive of something we can change. So today we're going to deal with part two of that. Last week we talked about deodorant. So does it mean don't use it? No, it just means find some natural deodorant. Is it affordable? Sure, there's some stuff out there that's affordable. Matter of fact, we showed you how you could just do it yourself. One person said they just take lemon juice and juice it and put it in a spray bottle. So there are other options. But today we're going to talk about some other things. Check this out.
Microplastics are everywhere, which is both a description of the number of stories and studies related to the phenomena and the content of those stories and studies, which attest to the pervasive nature of microplastics. Before we talk about what can be done, though, a quick explainer. Humans currently produce about 430 million tons of plastic waste each year, according to the United Nations. A large amount of that waste ends up degrading into microplastics, small particles that linger in our environment and can be consumed by animals and people. How do they form? Large plastics break down through physical abrasion, weathering, and other processes, releasing microplastics into rivers, oceans, groundwater, and the air. There are 5 different varieties. Fibers, commonly shed from clothes, these can be as big as 1/5 of an inch. Fragments, created when larger plastics, such as water bottles, break down. Film, made from the degradation of larger plastic items. Foam, generated from food containers and disposable silverware. And microbeads, synthetically manufactured microplastics used in cosmetics and healthcare products, including hand sanitizer. Microplastics spread through the water, air, and even human bloodstream. They've been found everywhere from the deepest oceanic trench in the world to the top of Mount Everest. In just the upper oceans alone, there are an estimated 24.4 trillion microplastics, according to Japanese researchers. Those microplastics are consumed by smaller animals, such as zooplankton, who are then eaten by larger animals. The particles stay in that larger animal's stomach and can be eventually passed up to humans. People inhale or ingest up to 114,000 microplastic particles per year through drinking, breathing, and eating, according to a 2019 study. Humans aren't just at risk of consuming regular microplastics, but also the more dangerous nanoplastics. Those particles are about 400 thousandths of an inch in size and can pass through the bloodstream to reach almost every single organ. Plastic particles have been found in a variety of human organs, including testicles, the liver, and lungs. They've even been found in the placenta and in the bodies of newborns. Joining us now to talk about the possible health risks from all this exposure to microplastics is Matthew Kempen. He's a professor at the University of New Mexico and the director of the school's Center for Metals in Biology and Medicine. Thank you so much for being with us. So what are the effects of micro and nanoplastics being present in the human body?
John, thanks for having me and for that outstanding introduction. The harmful effects, the best research right now is coming from a group in Italy who published showing that the amount of blood vessel content of plastics is associated with a threefold increase of potential heart attack within the next 3 years. That study has been sort of bolstered by a number of animal research with controlled exposures and a number of cell culture studies that gives us compelling evidence that every organ in the body could be suffering at the concentrations that we're seeing now.
So, Professor, as I sit here talking to you, is it possible to guess how much microplastics are inside me?
I could wager a guess.
All right, give me a shot.
All right. So most of our organs seem to be hovering around 300 to 600 micrograms per gram, and that's probably difficult to understand. It's a small drop in every organ, probably, but when we look at the brain, we see about 10 times that amount, and we're talking about an adult human brain probably has around 5 to 10 grams of plastic. That's about the size of a plastic spoon, but they're nanoplastics, so you can't even see them without very elaborate, sophisticated scientific equipment.
Well, that's disturbing. Let me ask you this double question then. A, the larger societal one, what can be done to reduce these kinds of plastics? And then, is there anything one can do if you've already got them as a part of your organs?
Great questions. Let's start with, the societal question is big. From my perspective, I feel that incineration of these plastics is going to be the best thing to do, and we need to consider more aggressive construction and implementation of waste-to-energy treatment plants. Right now, half of all those plastics that you talked about, the more than 1 ton of plastics per person on this planet, it is already in the ground, and it's already turning into microplastics. So even if we reduce or eliminate plastics, I think the UN goal is to eliminate plastic usage by 2040. Well, we still have billions of tons in the ground turning into microplastics. We haven't dented that growth at all. So my fear is that over the next 20 to 40 years, we're going to see double, triple, quadruple the amount of plastics in our bodies, and there will be health effects that stem from that. As for what we can do as individuals, right now, the best advice that our team has is to reduce the amount of fats and meats in your diet. The biggest amount of uptake into your body is through ingestion. We don't think that, it's good advice not to use a plastic cutting board, just because that's a piece of plastic that this planet probably doesn't need. But on the other hand, that's not really a great source for the generation of plastics that your body can absorb. So there's a number of pieces of advice out there that aren't necessarily scientifically sound, but the dietary piece with meats and fats is probably the best bet.
Professor Matthew Camp and I feel like we're going to be coming back to you on this one. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
So, how many have ever heard that term, microplastics? I hadn't. Tiny plastic particles that easily enter natural ecosystems and the human body. Microplastics. Yeah. When's the last time somebody told you, do you have any microplastics in you? So see, the thing is that we got to get this information out. We got to get people understanding to take a look at things. We've been talking in previous sessions about looking at our labels and looking for names that you can't pronounce, recognizing that there are things that are banned in other countries that that are being allowed by the FDA, that are being allowed by our healthcare system. And as the plastic components of things like used printer ink cartridges degrade, do you have a printer in your house? As those cartridges degrade, now I have one and I send them back. I send them back to the company. I got one of those systems where you send them back, but they release microplastics into the environment. these tiny particles can end up in our water systems, and then that contributes to a broader issue of oceanic and freshwater pollution. And we know we've seen this kind of stuff in certain cities, in certain states, the pollution that's taking place in our waters and in our airs. It's got a cascading effect on wildlife, human health, contaminating the food chain with particles that are difficult to extract and eliminate. Sponges, those melamine sponges, researchers suggest that creating denser, more durable sponges could reduce the release of microplastics. Consumers, on the other hand, might consider switching to natural, always look for that word, guys, natural alternatives that do not contribute to the microplastic pollution, as well as invest in their printing budget into recycled or US remanufactured ink cartridges to help slow the spread of toxins due to waste.
Back with a new study that has some scientists raising concerns about our environmental health and its impacts on the human body. Over the years, microplastics, a word you probably started to hear more, they've been found in almost every organ in the body, as well as in the bloodstream. But now, for what seems to be the first time, these microscopic pollutants have been found in tissue in the human brain. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar is here to explain what this new research means. This is one of those ones where you're like, I'm worried about it, don't think I can do anything about it, but you're going to tell me if I can. So let's first start with the information. It's a new study. It found microplastics in the olfactory bulb of multiple people, I understand, during autopsies. This is responsible, you kind of might remember this from bio or whatever, wherever you learn this. It processes information, smell, things like that. According to the study, does that mean we're breathing in these what could this mean?
Well, so experts are saying that this is a very reasonable concept, that the nose would be a portal of entry to the brain. As you pointed out in the intro, there has been many of reports now that microplastics found in kidney tissue, liver tissue, placental tissue. There was an article in the spring that showed that people who had microplastics in the carotid artery, that, you know, that could increase the risk of heart attack and stroke. So what they are surmising here is that if you have inflammation in nasal passages, the microplastics, it's easier for them to get in. The olfactory bulb, if you Google it, it sits right here at the top of the nose, and it's basically a conduit to the brain. But now that we're taking it one step beyond what the information showed. It showed that it was in the olfactory bulb. I think the next step would have been to do autopsy on the brain tissue itself to see if there are microplastics there. And then the next leap, Savannah, is what does that really mean for human health, right? The concern is that it potentially could increase the risk for neurodegenerative disease, but we have zero evidence that that is the case at this time.
So let's also define a microplastic. We've been showing some pictures of people with little bits of plastic, it looks like, on their fingertips. There's some behind you. I guess, especially in the context of this one, if we're talking about it like entering through the nose, it's not like we see those just flying through the air.
No.
So what's going on?
In fact, they're really, really small to see.
Right. I feel like these pictures might be a little bigger than they actually are.
Yeah. The largest microplastic is about 5 millimeters, and then it goes down to 1/5 of a meter, and then a nanometer measure in the billionths, even really, really difficult to say. And we're showing, look at our viewers, our viewers can see they are ubiquitous. They are everywhere. They're in hands. They're in beer, synthetic garments.
So they're in the things you're consuming. It's not just like you can avoid them.
Exactly. But you can, right? Because then the next step is, I mean, yes, of course, like everything we touch and we do and we ever, like, it's in our environment. But if we're talking about the ones that are really concerning, something called phthalates, those are one microplastic sort of degradation of plastics that we think could be like hormone disrupting. We talk about that a lot for kids who are going through puberty, that it could be impacting them. But can you avoid them? Well, yeah, because anything that has a large plastic that you're using, a plastic bottle, you don't want to put that in the dishwasher. You don't want to put that in the microwave. You want to swap out your plastic bottles and use glass and tin, let's say, containers. So there are little measures that we can make in our daily lives. But like I said before we even went on air, like, unless you want to live on an island somewhere by yourself, you really can't avoid them 100% of the time. That's just not realistic.
That's good advice too. So in your own home, like if you're like, going to use a container to save your leftovers.
Yes.
Switch to glass, things like that.
You can switch to glass, and then there's, on the bottom of those plastic containers, they have a number that like categorizes them in terms of plastics. I'm not an expert at this, but the plastic number 3 is the one that is the most concerning for our health, according to experts. That's the one you might want to especially not put in the dishwasher, not put in the microwave. That I knew about, the microwave, but the dishwasher I'm forgetting, and I'm thinking about all our Tupperware. I'm going to go home and check, because we do that, right? I mean, out of convenience in our modern day in the way we live, again, hence this like concept of you can't control for all of it, but we can, I think we do have some control for some of it.
I mean, and we put you in the position on this show and here at NBC News of like, tell us the new thing that's going to completely revolutionize our lives.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm always on a new kick, right? Like lately I'm like, I have to heal my gut. I've heard it's the second brain.
That's
there's
true
so many
too.
things you have to do. And it's like, should I take this supplement in the morning? Should I drink this or that? Tell us on this one, is this something we should be factoring into the whole calculus of wellness that we're all dealing with these days, or is there not really much we can do?
So maybe it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, so I've already gotten to the point where I've kind of thrown my hands up and I've said, I mean, what am I going to do? Because I'm never going to leave my house again, right? Because at every turn there lurks another health threat. But I think like with this, we have the information we have. We have found them. There's been one study that's maybe shown an association with actual clinical disease. We will see there will probably be more to come. So again, the things that are within your control that you can do, why don't you just start doing them and make it part of your wellness journey or your wellness lifestyle? But I think losing sleep over this, no.
Okay. There's so much to think about. Dr. Azar, thank you so much. Great to see you as always.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News.
Now, what I liked about what she said was the things that we can do something about, let's do something about it. No, I'm not losing sleep over it, but I'm going to get enough knowledge to make some changes if this is really happening, and it's really happening. And I'm not going to wait until they expose it to the masses when I can find out now. We can all go home right now. We can all go in our cabinets and look at our plastics, look at our Tupperware, and look and see if we see that number 3. That's something we can do. We can all start making a change into glass instead of plastics, or we can stop putting the plastic in the microwave. I'm guilty. We can all stop putting it in the dishwasher, right? So there are things that we can do, because these are things that are happening, and then they don't find out until they do an autopsy. Now, how good is that? Then we're talking about toxic heavy metals. We're going to talk about 2 things today, microplastics, and now we're talking about toxic heavy metals. Listen, guys, they're in a lot of stuff. I know it feels soft underfoot, our carpets, but one of the sources of heavy metal exposure in your home is through your carpet. According to John Roberts, an environmental engineer, carpet can contain alarmingly high levels of lead, cadmium, mercury, and several other chemicals that can cause significant harm to health. That's because carpets are particularly good at trapping the dirt and toxins brought in on our shoes. Vacuuming doesn't help, since it brings particles from deep in the carpet and circulates it into the air in your home. So to protect yourself, we got to do kind of like some other cultures, park your shoes by the door or opt for wood floors or tile. And if that's not an option, consider detoxifying those heavy metals out of your body, right?
A new study has just been released revealing toxic substances found in something many of us have in our homes.
Consumer investigator Hank Winchester is here, along with Local 4 Dr. Frank McGeorge. And Hank, this new report shows how dangerous carpet can be.
Exactly, and it's very surprising, the information that came out. The study revealing 44 different toxic chemicals in all 12 carpets that were tested.
Exactly, and I'm going to talk about the health effects that these substances can have on you and your family.
But right now, let's dig a little bit deeper into that study.
The most flooring sold in the U.S. today, it's carpet. Carpet holds a 60% share of the U.S. flooring market, with 11 billion square foot sold every year. But a new report from the Ecology Center reveals 12 different carpets were tested from the nation's 6 largest manufacturers, and all of them tested positive for toxic substances. Those carpets were from very popular manufacturers like J&J Engineered Flooring, Interface, Milliken, Mohawk, Shaw Flooring, and Tandis Sentiva. Some of these can even be found in major retailers across the country. Researchers say there are a couple ways these toxic chemicals get into our bodies. One being how carpets are disposed of. 4 billion pounds of carpets are dumped in landfills or burned in incinerators, releasing deadly pollutants into the air, soil, and water. One researcher pointed out the California wildfires released tons of chemicals, increasing the toxicity of the air we breathe. The other way, and the most pressing for parents, as babies and young children spend a lot of time crawling around on the carpet, picking up the substances and breathing them in, it's a big danger.
Now, the study was released as really a call to action to the carpet industry to make some changes, but those changes are not going to be coming anytime soon. Even recycled carpet on the list posed a potential danger. Now, one of the largest manufacturers, Shaw, contained high levels of 6 different types of PFAS. Dr. Frank McGeorge is here. And what type of health implications are we talking about, Doc?
Well, you know, Hank, 2 of the most notable chemicals in the carpeting were PFAS, which is, of course, very popular and a hot topic right now in Michigan because it's also been found contaminating soil and water around the state, as well as phthalates, which used to actually be very common in children's toys. Now, the issue with PFAS is that it actually accumulates in our bodies and it builds up over time. Research into what it does into our bodies is ongoing, but there is evidence that it has effects on infant birth weight, the immune system, thyroid function, and it could cause cancer. Now, phthalates, they've been linked to hormone disruptions, reproductive problems, and some cancers. Now, while this can affect adults, obviously, the biggest point, as you mentioned, is that it can affect children because they are disproportionately closer to the carpet.
So we're seeing that video of the baby rolling around the carpet, and I'm thinking of my daughter. You really want to be careful about picking up carpet fibers or getting those fibers into the baby's mouth, right?
Exactly, what they might ingest by accident. And of course, the issue is also that these carpets are going to be used on the secondary market. They are exuding toxins for long periods of time after.
All right, Doc, thank you. We'll post more information about this study at clickondetroit.com. Jason, Kimberly, back to you.
I remember when you were a kid rolling around on the floor on the carpet, right? I mean, these are natural things that we do. And again, I'm gonna say, if there was a label on that carpet saying this contains this, phthalates, I talked about phthalates last week when we were talking about our deodorant. All right, here's another one, aluminum pots and pans. A large portion of cookware sold today is made out of what? Aluminum. Manufacturers love to use it because it's what? Lightweight, and it heats evenly. But there's a big downside to cooking with aluminum. If the protective anodized coating gets any scratches on the surface, look at your pots. Some of you had pots for a long time. Then this will allow the aluminum to leach into your food, especially when using acidic foods such as tomatoes. Also, they say that we even should watch out for aluminum foil, for what's sometimes called tin foil in Europe. And studies show using aluminum foil in cooking can dramatically increase the amount of aluminum in the food by up to 378%. Watch this demonstration. This blew me away.
Okay, here's your proof in the pudding. Aluminum cookware is not what you want to use, ever. This is a brand new nylon scrubbing sponge, so you can see there's nothing on it at all. This particular pot has never been used to cook food with. And it's aluminum, and it's literally brand new, other than the fact that it's just been used for these demonstrations. That's it. No food has ever touched it. Again, the nylon scrubbing pad, and we're going to use bottled water and a clean, untouched plastic cup. I'll put the cup to the side. We'll open the bottle in front of you. And we're going to pour it in here, just enough to cover the bottom. And again, once again, you can see there's nothing in here except for the nylon scrubber and the water. And all we're going to do is this, as though we're wiping the pan down and cleaning it. Now, nylon should not do anything to metal, or at least that's what we think. But because aluminum is so soft and it melts literally so easily when it comes in contact with acids like sugar, lemon juice, lime juice, tomato, that it literally peels off in layers and goes into your food in megadoses. You can probably see that it's not coming down all so clean. But we'll take the sponge and move it to the side and get rid of it. And we'll come back and we'll put our cup down so you can see where it's at. That's what's in your food. This is all aluminum water, and that's what goes in your food when you use aluminum cookware. So if you want to continue using aluminum cookware, that's your choice. I choose not to let anything like that ever enter my food, my meal, or anything I serve anyone else. I've been using stainless steel cookware since the mid-80s, and I'm not going to change. Stainless steel cookware is hypoallergenic. Aluminum cookware is dangerous. Don't use aluminum cookware.
So thank you for giving me an alternative. Stainless steel cookware. Man, amazing, amazing. None of us knowingly want that to happen to our wonderful dish that we just made in the aluminum cookware that we're using.
4 types of toxic cookware to avoid and 4 safe alternatives. Most people these days are well aware of the importance of eating healthy. However, not everyone knows that the cookware you use to prepare your dishes is just as important as the food itself. Even the healthiest diet can result in severe health complication if your pots and pans are toxic. If you're ready to find out what those dangers are, which cookware to avoid, and what safer alternatives you can replace them with, then keep on watching. 1. Teflon cookware. Teflon is probably the biggest offender on this list, so we'll start off strong. Many people choose this non-stick material because it's convenient and easy to find. Yet they have no idea that it's also the most dangerous. The non-stick properties of Teflon cookware are achieved with a coating of PTFE, or polytetrafluoroethylene. This is a plastic polymer that when heated above 572 degrees Fahrenheit starts to release toxins. These toxic fumes lead to flu-like symptoms called polymer fume fever, informally known as Teflon flu. People begin to suffer from headaches, chills, and high temperature. Because Teflon fumes do the most damage on the lungs, people usually feel tightness in their chest and start coughing. The symptoms don't even appear right after a person has breathed in the fumes, but a couple of hours later. And it's not just dangerous to people. Teflon fumes are also fatal to pet birds like parrots. Another chemical compound found in Teflon cookware is PFOA, or perfluorooctanoic acid. This man-made chemical is also known as C8. It's especially threatening since it tends to stay in the body, as well as the environment, for long periods of time. Recent studies both in the lab and on humans have found a link between this substance and several types of cancer, including breast, prostate, and ovarian cancer. While it's believed that the PFOA present in Teflon products is in such small amounts that it poses no threat to people, it's worth noting that this stuff is also found in tons of other things you come in contact with every single day, like the water you drink. The amount depends on the area where you live, but in any case, it's best to limit your exposure to PFOA if you can. You can find non-stick cookware that's free of PTFE and PFOA, but it's usually coated with something like granite. This coating is safe to use as long as it's intact, but unfortunately, it's thin and chips easily. As soon as it starts coming off, you have to stop using that cookware item immediately. Try this safe alternative instead: real cast iron. This is a non-toxic cooking option that truly withstands the test of time. It heats well and evenly throughout. Plus, cast iron cookware even comes in non-stick varieties. It doesn't leak anything toxic into your food and is actually a nice natural way to increase your body's iron levels. And if your body doesn't need an iron boost, then you can try enameled cast iron cookware, which is just as safe and convenient to use. 2. Aluminum cookware and aluminum foil. It's no surprise that aluminum is so widely used. Besides being the most abundant metal out there, it's also very strong, lightweight, versatile, and recyclable. However, it's not without hidden dangers. Aluminum is a neurotoxic material. Elevated levels of aluminum in the body have been linked to several nervous system diseases, including Alzheimer's and ALS. Though aluminum cookware is usually coated, the coating is prone to chipping, allowing the toxic metal to get right into your food. As for aluminum foil, using it while cooking is even more dangerous. In fact, there's an established safe amount of aluminum the human body can manage daily, and that's 20 milligrams per pound of body weight a day. When you wrap your food in aluminum foil and cook it this way, the amount of this substance that leaks into the food significantly exceeds the permissible level. And if you add acidic lemon to the fish you're baking, it starts aggressively breaking down layers and layers of aluminum, letting them seep into your dinner. That's why you should use foil only to wrap cold foods and leftovers in. Try this safe alternative instead: glass cookware. This is another safe option to consider. It'll never release anything toxic when heated, it doesn't hold on to any old flavors or odors, and it's not only durable, but also eco-friendly. The only downside of glass cookware is that it isn't non-stick, but that's just a small price to pay for your health and safety. 3. Copper cookware. You've probably seen copper cookware in stores and noticed how pretty it was. You're likely to have heard of its amazing conductive properties that allow for quick and even heating. But did you know that copper can actually be dangerous when used in cookware? Just like with a lot of metals, the human body needs copper in small amounts. But if the body gets too much of the stuff, it can lead to life-threatening complications. And copper cookware, especially when it isn't coated, can easily send you to the ER with a bad case of metal poisoning. And that's because it can release copper when you cook acidic foods. So if you've just enjoyed some fish and lemon juice or stewed tomatoes cooked with an uncoated copper pot, and you find yourself suffering from extremely unpleasant symptoms such as vomiting blood, lightheadedness, yellowy skin, or gastrointestinal distress, among others, call 911 immediately. And even if your cookware is coated, the coating often contains nickel, which is another toxic element. Nickel exposure can lead to problems with the liver and kidneys. It can also cause high blood pressure, heart disease, and an increased risk of lung cancer. Try this safe alternative instead: stainless steel. This is a great cookware option. It's relatively lightweight, scratch-resistant, and comes in non-stick varieties. It'll also last you a really long time. Just make sure you're buying food-grade stainless steel, since this is the only type that doesn't contain any nickel or chromium. 4. Ceramic-coated cookware. This type of cookware looks nice and seems like a safe option at first. After all, 100% ceramic is completely safe for cooking. However, ceramic coating usually hides some pretty nasty stuff in it. Soft ceramic coating isn't durable enough and starts chipping after a few months of daily use. When this happens, lead and cadmium sometimes found in the coating will end up in your food and thus in your body. Lead poisoning is one of the most dangerous types of metal poisoning and can result in abdominal pain, headaches, infertility, and often other health complications. In severe cases, it can even lead to coma and death. As for cadmium, it's toxic even in the tiniest amounts. If it gets into your body, it'll negatively impact all your various systems, starting with the cardiovascular and reproductive ones, and then moving on to your kidneys, eyes, and brain. In men, it messes with testosterone levels and damages prostate function. It can also do a real number on your bones. Yeah, none of this sounds very pleasant, does it? Even when ceramic coating is lead-free or doesn't contain cadmium, chipped cookware can still present a danger because it's usually neurotoxic aluminum hiding under that coating. Try this safe alternative instead: 100% ceramic cookware. This is one of the best and safest options out there since it's made with completely natural materials. It isn't toxic and it won't chip or peel off. It's also non-stick and dishwasher safe. Its only downside is that 100% ceramic can be pretty costly, but it will last you a very long time. Plus, after everything we've talked about today and all those horrible symptoms caused by toxic cookware, don't you think it's worth the investment? Did any of your cookware make this blacklist, or do you use the safe alternatives? Which one's your favorite? Tell us in the comments below.
Which ones are your favorite? Which ones are you using? Which ones are we going to ditch, right? I mean, and they make it so glamorous when they put it on television and they put it on sale and they put it on Amazon and all these other cooking shows. I don't believe the chefs even know what they're doing when they put their names, when these stars put their names behind something. I was watching a commercial today with Shaq, and he's just the Shaq-a-roni pizza, right? With more and more and more cheese. And he's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You right what I'm saying? So if you know him, if you know somebody who knows him, come on, let's get these guys educated. We know we've seen things that have taken place in different cities regarding our drinking water. Most of us have become more abreast of this. Most people assume that their drinking water is safe until they tell us there's some toxins because they've tested it. But we know that it's not true. And the water supplies have multiple chemicals in them. That's why some of us have water systems in our homes, or we're going out and buying our water. Who ever thought we'd be buying something that's supposed to be free? But the pesticides, the prescription drugs that are being, put in the fields, even the heavy metals, ends up getting into our water systems. In one study, researchers discovered that all the water samples contained heavy metal concentrations, well beyond what's considered safe. This has included cadmium, chromium, lead, and nickel. Another study found that over 3,000 communities in the U.S. contain unsafe levels of lead in their drinking water because of old lead pipes and plumbing in older homes. Running the water before using it definitely can help to clear the line of water that has been sitting next to lead pipes. So we can check our quality of our water by entering our zip code in the Environmental Working Group database. And since bottled water isn't really a safe option, one of the options is a home water filtration system.
Another study that got people's attention that I think is worth mentioning, which relates to microplastics, nanoplastics, and cardiovascular disease. This was a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2024, so this is a fabulously good journal. And what it found was that polyethylene, which is a component of many plastics out there, were detected in the carotid artery plaques of, in this case, 150 patients, which is approximately 58% of the ones that were included in the study. And they also found using a technique called electron microscopy. In this study, electron microscopy showed that there were these little jagged edge foreign particles among the plaque macrophages of these cardiovascular plaques. Okay, macrophages are part of the immune system. These are cells that go in and try and eat things up. They're kind of like little ambulances. But the point here is that these are not good. This is one of the reasons you want to eat properly and do cardiovascular exercise and take great care of yourself, etc. Now, were they the cause of these plaques? Did they contribute to some of the occlusion caused by those plaques? Unclear. It's reasonable to assume that they form part of the physical substrate that could occlude blood flow through these arteries.
The point that I'm trying to make here is all this stuff is happening around us, and it has started happening in our generation, the last 30, 40, 50 years, the last 60 years of our lives. And that's why we have more and more increase in cancer and diabetes and high blood pressure that our parents and grandparents did not have, because they didn't have all these luxuries. Here's a luxury.
Okay, you're at work, heating up your lunch in some plastic Tupperware. But that Thai food isn't the only thing you're eating. Your diet also includes a bit of that plastic container. These are known as microplastics. They're in our food, our water, and even in the air we breathe. And while research into microplastics has focused on their environmental impact, new studies are showing the alarming toll they take on our health.
So
microplastics are basically little plastics. They're essentially invisible, but they're everywhere. We have let plastics get essentially out of control in our environment, and now we're all consuming them.
Tracy is director of UCSF's program on reproductive health and the environment. Her team recently analyzed over a dozen animal studies on microplastics links to cancer, infertility, and more. So what is it about microplastic that makes it so harmful to our health? Most plastics are made from polyethylene, which comes from oil. And yeah, that kind of oil. Then it's mixed with a cocktail of chemicals that make our bendy straws bend and our cling wrap cling. Since the 1950s, the world has fallen in love with plastics to make anything and everything in our lives.
Just one word. Plastics.
Plastic has become so ubiquitous because it's supposed to be indestructible.
Dishes that bounce when they drop to the floor.
But we now know that's not really true. Washing our polyester and nylon clothes creates microplastics, which leach into the water system and then to our food. Driving on tires shreds microplastics into the air. Heating plastic bottles sheds microplastics into our drinks, which is why researchers have found microplastics everywhere, like in human bloodstreams, our waste, and maybe most surprisingly, in placentas, meaning microplastics can impact our health even before we're born. Now, fetal development thrives on hormones connecting with their receptors to grow certain organs. But chemicals and microplastics can interfere with that process by either mimicking hormones or changing how much of those hormones are produced. For example, male fetuses need lots of testosterone to develop their sex organs. But phthalates, a class of chemical used in certain plastics, can get in the way.
They reduce the synthesis of testosterone through different mechanisms so that when the child grows up later, it may not be that they don't produce sperm, they may produce less sperm, or their sperm may not all be as functional as they would have been if they hadn't had this exposure.
Some studies on phthalates suggest they can even increase erectile dysfunction. If that wasn't alarming enough, because food and drinks are major sources of microplastics, the effects they have on digestive systems are looking grim. Scientists have long studied the biological mechanisms that can increase your risk of cancer. Smoking or chowing down on lots of red meat increases oxidative stress. This process creates proteins called cytokines, which cause inflammation. And study after study links these two things with higher rates of cancer. The UC team's review found that consuming plastic has similar effects. In one study, researchers noticed an increase in both oxidative stress and inflammation in mice's intestines after they were fed microplastics. Now, more research needs to be done on humans, but the UC team's review suggested that microplastics are probably hazardous to human health. Unlike so-called forever chemicals, which are found in a ton of products, many microplastics and their chemicals are cleared from our bodies, like through bathroom breaks. But because we use so much plastic, our bodies never really get a break.
I think once we have more evidence, we're just going to see that there's way more health effects that we haven't identified yet that are coming from these microplastics. We are trying to mitigate them before more harm is done.
Avoiding plastics altogether is impossible.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Then why don't you?
But there are ways to reduce your microplastics intake.
Just don't microwave in plastic. That's actually kind of a big one that people don't realize.
One study showed some staggering numbers. For example, 3 minutes in the microwave is enough to loosen plastic's molecular bonds and release millions of microplastics. So when you can, store and heat your food in non-plastic containers like glass or ceramics. Experts also advise drinking tap water instead of bottled water, eating more fruits and vegetables, since microplastic chemicals accumulate in animal fat, and be sure to clean your house with a wet mop, since microplastics love to cling to dust. So what do you do to avoid microplastics? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to know what sugar does to your body, check out our other video.
So I'm hoping that we will be able to do some things now after leaving here today to avoid this. I don't want to have to wait for them to come to the conclusion that this is actually causing. Ceramic mugs, plates, and bowls, ceramic coffee mugs. They're pretty, yeah. But a lot of them have that beautiful glaze. The glaze that the artists used to create the beautiful ceramic mugs, plates, and bowls can expose you to heavy metals. And one of the studies found that the glazed surfaces of mugs leached lead, cadmium, nickel, and cobalt. Another study from 2017 found that lead often leaches into coffee or tea when a ceramic mug is used. Again, it looks fantastic. It's beautiful, 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 right? But this exposure chronically is lead can be quite dangerous over time. But if you use a crock pot, there's good news. Testing on ceramic cookware did not show any lead in crock pot products. Ceramic coffee mugs range from stoneware to porcelain, right? Stoneware mugs are timeless and thicker than the average ceramic mug, whereas porcelain is harder and smoother. Both of these keep your coffee warm until the last drop, and both are made of similar material that's durable and easy to maintain. Some decorative ceramic mugs can carry toxic glazes, so it's the glazes. If you've got one that's more of a dull look, and I don't want to say dull look, but it still looks good, then you're not as prone to the toxins that we're talking about, and you can still use your ceramic, your stoneware, and your porcelain. Because the best material for these glass glazes are free from heavy metals such as lead. So again, we can look at the ingredients even when we purchase our stoneware, even when we purchase our mugs and our plates. So you want to avoid drinking out of the older ones. If you got some of those older ones, because as we learn more, they finally expose us to more, they begin to change how they're making these things. So some of these things, we've had stuff so long, we don't want to get rid of it. Our mama gave it to us. Pre-1990s, lead and cadmium glazes were common. That was a common thing. So if you move your fingers over the surface and you feel a rise in the design on your mug, that's a sign that your ceramic may carry a lead glaze. If it's not the safest material for coffee mug, why keep it? Sentimental value, definitely if you're going to keep it, you're not trying to even use it, right? So either toss them, or if they're your antique ceramic mugs, hold sentimental value, put it on a bookshelf. Use it as a pen holder. But don't put it in the microwave. Don't drink with it. Don't drink your coffee with it. Don't cook and eat with it, because lead can be readily absorbed through the skin.
Certain kitchenware may contain toxic substances that can leach into food, posing health risks over time. Here are 10 types of kitchenware that may be harmful. Number 1. Non-stick cookware. Traditional non-stick coatings contain perfluorooctanoic acid PFOA and perfluorooctanesphine acid PFOS, which are potentially harmful chemicals that can leach into food when scratched or overheated. Number 2. Aluminum cookware. Aluminum cookware can release aluminum into food, especially when cooking acidic or salty foods. Excessive aluminum exposure has been linked to neurological disorders and other health issues. Number 3. Copper cookware. While copper cookware is prized for its excellent heat conductivity, excessive copper exposure can lead to copper toxicity, which may cause gastrointestinal symptoms, liver damage, and other health problems. Number 4. Plastic utensils. Plastic utensils, especially those made with low-quality or non-food grade plastics, may contain harmful chemicals such as bisphenol A, BPA, and phthalates, which can leach into food and disrupt hormone balance. Number 5. Plastic food storage containers. Similar to plastic utensils, plastic food storage containers may contain BPA and other harmful chemicals that can leach into food, especially when exposed to heat or acidic foods. Number 6. Old ceramic cookware. Some older ceramic cookware may contain lead or cadmium in the glazes, which can leach into food when heated. It's essential to use only lead-free, food-safe ceramic cookware. Number 7. Melamine dishes. Melamine dishes, especially those made with low-quality materials, may contain formaldehyde and other harmful chemicals that can leach into food, especially when heated. Number 8. Aluminum foil. Cooking with aluminum foil, especially when cooking acidic or salty foods, can cause aluminum to leach into food. While occasional use is unlikely to cause harm, regular use may pose health risks. Number 9. Non-stick bakeware. Similar to non-stick cookware, non-stick bakeware may contain PFOA and PFOS, which can leach into food when scratched or overheated. Number 10. Stainless steel cookware with nickel. While stainless steel is generally considered safe for cooking, some individuals may be sensitive to nickel, which is commonly found in stainless steel. High-quality stainless steel cookware is typically made with low levels of nickel, but those with sensitivities may want to opt for nickel-free alternatives. To minimize exposure to potentially harmful substances, consider choosing safer alternatives such as cast iron, stainless steel, glass, or ceramic cookware. Additionally, avoid using damaged or worn-out kitchenware, and prioritize cooking with utensils and containers made from food-safe materials. Ready to take charge of your health and wellness journey? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below for some more useful content.
So that's what I want to do. I want us to take charge of our health, right? So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to split this up into another part 3 because we got to be, I think we've kind of digested enough for us to go through the kitchen right now before we get into our beauty and our self-care and our cosmetics, because there's a lot going on when it comes to this toxicity. There's a lot going on when they create this stuff and they put this stuff in it. They know what they're doing, and then it'll take years before they realize and begin to expose us to the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So I want you to go and share, hit like, hit share, subscribe to our channel, and definitely expose other people so that they can become aware. We're destroyed for the lack of knowledge. So I'm going to look at all my plastics. I'm getting rid of plastics. I'm getting glass. Getting, I already got some cast irons. Cast irons was back in the day, right? Cast iron is still good. So thank you so much for being here.